Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Jamie. In today's video, we talk about some new makeup releases. Am I gonna buy them, put them on my wish list, or pass over them altogether? As always, this video inspired by Samantha March, who created the Will I Buy It series, and she also created a community playlist where other creators can post this type of video. So I'll have both her Will I Buy It playlist linked down below and the community playlist. I was so busy the past month that I wasn't really able to film these videos, and with the makeup community just coming out with new releases every day, I felt so overwhelmed and then I wasn't able to catch up. So instead of talking about some new releases, I'm gonna make this an eyeshadow palette focused video because those are the things that intrigue me the most. And maybe we'll talk about some ones that I've already released and were sneak peeked and some new ones and just give my thoughts. So if you wanna hear me discuss some new eyeshadow palettes and whether or not I'm gonna buy them, just keep on watching. So the first palette is from Morphe, and it's the 3503 Fierce by Nature Artistry palette. And this is the most unnecessary release in the entire world. So if you're not familiar with the Morphe 350 series, which has been going on for a while, they have the 350M, which is all matte, the 350S, which is all shimmer, the 350, which is a mix of matte and shimmer, and the 3502, which came out last year or the year before. But the only thing different about this is it has like a bronzy shimmer and a green. But if you cover up that green shadow, it's the exact same thing they released that last year. For me, having 30 plus red and orange shadows in a palette is so unnecessary because a lot of these shades are gonna look so similar when you blend them on your eyes. If you have the 350 SM, the original, or the 2, you don't need this. You can just go out and buy a green single shadow. Another collection that kind of disappointed me comes from Colourpop, and it's their new fall collection, and it has the Whatever palette. Colourpop also came out with 2 Ulta Exclusive palettes, which I'll touch on in a minute, but this looks like the exact same one as one of the Ulta ones. I'm also not about that pressed glitter life. Putting a pressed glitter in a palette that isn't technically eye safe doesn't really appeal to me, and it's one less shade that I wouldn't use in the palette. I am intrigued by the Super Shock formula in the palettes though. I've talked a few times on my channel, and I actually have a best and worst Colourpop video coming up, that I'm not crazy about the Super Shock, so I wonder if they would just dry out really quickly when they're in a palette, and just how that formula would work, because if you know anything about the Super Shock pots, you have to keep them so tightly sealed just in order for them to stay remotely okay for a little bit. So I know they've had pressed Super Shock shadows in, it started out first in the Sweet Talk palette, and it's in the new Kathleen Lights palettes, and now some of these. So I just wonder how that formula would work in general. So speaking of those 2 Ulta Exclusive Colourpop collection, there's the X's and O palettes, which reminds me a lot of the She palette or like the Femme Rosa palette. It's warm and it's rosy, but it's something Colourpop has, and it looks just like the Whatever palette, but I think the Whatever palette looks a lot better than this. This retails for $16, and I believe I saw it at Ulta the other day, and their other Ulta Exclusive palette is the Truly Madly Deeply palette. I think this palette is a great release because it actually has existing shades from the Colourpop line put into the palette. So if you are new and you haven't really played around with Colourpop, it's a great way to experience their formula because it has some glitters, some mattes, and some shimmer finishes. I did swatch it and it's pretty, but it's not a color scheme that I would use, especially a palette with 3 pressed glitters. Another Colourpop palette that definitely caught my attention was the new collaboration with Kathleen Lights, and it's the So Jaded eyeshadow palette. I've done a video all about products that Kathleen Lights has made me buy, so I'll link that up above or down below. But a lot of those products that I mentioned are Colourpop because she's collaborated with them like 6 times now. I bought some of her collabs. I have some of her lipsticks. I bought the Dream Street bundle. I have some of her Super Shock shadows. I have a Zodiac Pigment. I just like her releases in general. And I think the major appeal of this was that it is a large eyeshadow palette with 30 different colors that retails for $39. But for me, large eyeshadow palettes are even less appealing. Once again, it has those 2 pressed glitters and they're pretty, but I probably would never use them. And one of my favorite YouTubers, Andrea Mattiliano, just did a video where she tried to dupe this with colors in her existing Colourpop eyeshadow collection. So I'll have that video linked down below as well. And she compared it to the Disney Villains palette, which I own and I love. And a lot of the standout shades in the So Jaded palette match that one. The one shade that like immediately caught my attention was Peridot, which is like that lime green, which I love all over the lid or in the inner corner. And it looks just like the Disney Villain shade. So that was kind of a drawback. And I don't know, it's so big and overwhelming, and Colourpop is one of those brands that just releases so many things that I just feel like I can't keep up. And it's like you buy the So Jaded palette and then you turn around, they're releasing their fall collection, and then you're gonna turn around, they're gonna release 100 holiday collections. And I just find that sometimes I don't want to buy from them because I feel like once I buy, I'm gonna be placing an order the next day because they released countless amount of products. A palette that I am really excited for is the new Natasha de Nona mini palette. Out of all of the palettes Natasha de Nona has ever released, the gold palette like struck a heartstring, struck a chord in my heart. I really wanted the gold palette. Everything about it, I just like the fact that those are the shades I typically wear. I wear gold and bronzes the most. I have like a bronze eye on right now. These are the colors that I just tend to gravitate towards. And if I'm gonna spend $129 on an eyeshadow palette, I'd rather it be a color scheme I can reach for, and it had those really pretty blues and greens that I could use to like amp up the look and take it to a little bit more of a interesting place. So when I saw she was releasing a mini gold palette for holiday, this is 100% gonna be in my collection. I like the shades, and I think my favorite thing about this was it has 4 new shades and 1 existing shade. Therefore, if you're someone that bought the gold palette and you love it, because I've heard nothing but good reviews about that palette, you can buy this mini to complement it without having a bunch of duplicate shades. But if you're someone like myself that liked the gold palette but doesn't really want to spend $100 or can't really spend $129, this is a great option. And I've never tried out Natasha de Nona's formula, and this is the color scheme I would use. I love green eyeshadow. I love golds. Like, I would use every single color in this palette. And I think it's a great way to get an introduction to her brand. And I'm really excited about this. I don't think there's a release date out yet. Oh, it is available on September 17th, which will be Tuesday. So the day after I post this. And I'm going to get it. It's $25, which I guess for 5 shades, I actually don't think that's that bad because that's how much Colourpop sells their single shadows for, especially when you're coming from a brand like Natasha de Nona that somehow charges a enormous amount of money for each shadow. But I'm so excited about this. Were you also excited about the gold palette? Because this is the mini that I've been waiting for since the big one released. If you watched videos on my channel, you know that the Anasazi Beverly Hills eyeshadow palette formula is one of my favorite formulas. I have 7 Anasazi palettes. Modern Renaissance, Prisms of Culture, Sultry, Norvina, Riviera, and the new Jackie Aina palette. And I love them, and I'm continually putting them in my shop, my stash, and they're just go-to palettes. If you're not familiar with the Anastasia formula, they are kind of powdery, but they're pigmented, they're blendable, and her shimmer quality has improved drastically. So Norvina's coming out with the Pro Pigment palette, which is 25 shades, and part of me really wants to buy this because I love the Anastasia formula, but I know these really aren't colors that I would gravitate towards. It retails for $60, which I don't think is the worst price for $25, and Anastasia is a more high-end brand. But a lot of those purple mattes I have in single shadows, and since I have the Norvina palette, I feel like I have the essence of this. A lot of the colors are reminiscent of the Alyssa Edwards palette, which is something I didn't purchase because I bought the Norvina one. So if you do have the Alyssa Edwards palette, you might want to hold it up to this picture and see if they compare, because I immediately saw comparisons. My one kind of issue with this, I feel like this released so immediately after the Jackie palette. So I was reviewing the Jackie palette and really loving on it, and then all of a sudden this released, and I just feel like it was a lot consecutively. We always talk about how many releases Colourpop has and how they're kind of overwhelming, but I feel like Anastasia is also getting there. I remember they released Alyssa Edwards immediately after Norvina, and they released a glow kit right after they released the Norvina glow kit, or the Nicole Guerrero glow kit. And I feel like Anastasia has been stepping up their releases. In the past few months, they released the Jackie Aina palette, this palette, which comes with a liquid lipstick set, a foundation, a setting powder, loose highlighters. Like, they're releasing a lot of product at the same time too. And the same issue with Colourpop, when you release so many releases at one time, it just becomes a little bit overwhelming. So I'm not going to pick this up because of the color scheme, but I feel like Anastasia is going to be releasing their holiday palette any minute now. So Urban Decay has come out with a new palette in their Naked collection, and this is the Naked Honey palette. I've actually never owned a Naked palette, which might be shocking because they are cult staples. My best friend has the Naked 3, and I remember I lusted after that palette, and I was like, oh my God, can I come over and do my makeup with you? Because I thought it was the best eyeshadow. But now that I'm playing more with makeup and definitely familiar with more formulas, the Naked formula just isn't something that I gravitate towards, at least the Naked palettes that I've tried. But I feel like for a Naked Honey palette, this does not have a color scheme that entices me. Where's the matte yellow? I feel like you can't have a honey palette without like bright yellow colors. And I feel like there's only one truly deeply matte. So I don't really know if this would work on a variety of skin tones. I did film a video using some single shadows in my collection of what I would want the Naked Honey palette to look like. So stay tuned for that coming on my channel either this week or next week. But I would have done this differently. It's pretty, but when I think honey, I think like really warm tone yellows. And I thought of like a yellow themed palette. I immediately and instinctively went to the Honey palette by Colourpop, which was their all yellow palette, and kind of thought like it should be more of like a yellowy brown with maybe a few pops of like reds and greens. But this one is more brown than anything. It is available now, and I believe the Naked palettes retail for around $45. I don't have the exact price offhand, but I believe that's what the prior ones have listed for. But let me know what you thought about this color scheme, because from some of the comments I saw online, a lot of people had similar thoughts like me. An eyeshadow palette that I thought was really pretty is the Lime Crime Venus Immortalis palette. It's $38, it's 8 shades, the palette glows in the dark, which I don't know why that's necessary, but it does. But I definitely like audibly gasped when I saw this on my Instagram feed. I've never bought anything from Lime Crime. I know they're a controversial brand and I'm not really sure how I stand with them, but mostly a lot of their stuff doesn't appeal to me. But this is the cool tone palette. I think that blue popped in with like the burgundy and like the light pink is a complete home run when it comes to color schemes. And this just gives me such fall vibes. Part of me is thinking about picking this up if it comes into Ulta, but part of me remembers that I have the Sultry palette and I could just throw in a pop of blue and cranberry because I do have a cool tone palette and I have that Milani Sultry palette, the cool tone one that I don't really reach for. So now that I'm talking out loud, I probably don't need this. But this color scheme is really pretty, and it's an addition to something that Lime Crime does not have in their line. If you're a cool tone lover or you want to get into cool tones, I don't think $38 is the worst price, and I think this color scheme is bomb. Another palette that I think had such a creative color scheme is the new Dominique Cosmetics palette. This is her Celestial Storm palette, and a lot of her prior palettes have been really neutral and on the more basic sides of colors. The Latte palette was a warm neutral palette. The Lemonade palette was also really neutral. The Berries and Cream was like very traditional, like pinky tones. The Rustic Lamb had like a pop of blue, but was still relatively neutral. But this one is so colorful and so much fun. You do a few neutral mattes which like ground the palette, but overall it's extremely colorful. And it's just an exciting release, and probably the last thing that I thought Dominique Cosmetics would come out with. This palette is already available. I don't have the retail price offhand, but I always have the information about the products that I talk about in the description box down below, including links where you can purchase it, release dates, and the price. But this includes 12 different shades, and this color scheme is really cool. I don't know if I would buy it, but I can definitely show some appreciation to like a unique addition in the Dominique Cosmetics lineup. So Kim Kardashian Beauty, or KKW Beauty, came out with a collaboration with Winnie Harlow, and they came out with an eyeshadow palette, some lip glosses, a face duo, but we're gonna talk about the eyeshadow palette most of all. I think the collection's pretty, and the eyeshadow palette is unique for Kim's line, mostly because a lot of Kim's eyeshadows have been fairly neutral. Looking at a close-up on the palette, which I will have up here, I wish there were more matte, especially those two dark colors. They're both shimmery, and it's a very shimmery palette the more that I look at it. I wasn't going to buy this anyway. It retails for $49. It talks about the different shades on the Trend Mood One Instagram, which I'll have listed down below too. And apparently Obsidian is a matte, which I'm assuming is that dark black, but it has pink and gold shimmer, which is just so unnecessary. I don't like blacks with glitter. I just feel like they don't have a place in my eyeshadow palettes. But you have a metallic charcoal blue with silver shimmer, a duochrome bronze with multi-dimensional pearls, metallic pink with golden undertones, a rich matte burgundy, a shimmering plum, a shimmering rose gold, metallic amber, metallic red brown, matte walnut, and a mid-tone brown in a champagne color. My knowledge of Winnie Harlow comes from the fact that I am the biggest America's Next Top Model fan, and she was on cycle 21, and she went by the name Chantel. I watched her, and I had mixed feelings about her, but it's so exciting to see someone that you like watched in their earlier stage become such a successful model, because she's killing it. I see her on the fashion shows all the time, And she also has vitiligo, which is like a skin disease. And I really think it's awesome to see someone that doesn't look like the typical person featured in such a big brand like Kim Kardashian. Kim Kardashian's beauty line is also coming into Ulta, so I'm debating picking up a few things and maybe testing it out for myself. Let me know if there's any products that you would like me to review. I love the fact that these like online brands like Kylie are coming to Ulta, because Kylie was actually just in the 21 Days of Beauty sale, and I might have picked up a few things, but I'm planning on doing a 21 Days of Beauty sale at the end of the sale, even though I've done a pretty good job restraining myself. Just stay tuned to see what other products I picked up. But I think it's exciting. I think the palette's pretty, but it's too similar to things that I already have in my collection. If you're a lover of Winnie or a lover of Kim or a lover of neutral eyeshadows, I've heard really good things about the formula, but if you're someone in the makeup community that has a lot of palettes, you can probably dupe this yourself. But I think that's gonna wrap it up for today. I know this is a little bit of a different style than the videos that I usually post, but because I've taken a bit of a hiatus from this series, I hope you enjoyed talking about some eyeshadow palettes with me. My schedule is pretty booked for the next month, but I'm going to try to get some more of these videos out because I love talking about new releases and sharing my thoughts and hearing your thoughts as well. If you like this video, I hope you'll consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to my channel. I post new videos on my channel every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern, and I'd love to have you come join me next time. But that's going to wrap it up for today. Thanks for watching.